First of all, let me say good afternoon to members of the media. I've called this press conference this afternoon in response to the minister's press conference yesterday in response to my comments on Labor Day, which was Monday, right? First of all, I think something needs to be clarified. Which one of these two statements are true? And the reason why I'm starting this press conference like that, because it appears that the World Gazette has printed a story that the minister has given, and B.I.U News has a story. The minister says, I was asked to consider an extension of a work permit that was about to expire. That's what she says to the World Gazette. Here's what she says to B.I.U News. The work permit had expired and no new work permit had been applied for. Which one is it? It can't be both. It simply can't be both statements. It has to be one or the other. Recognizing that the application for Mr. Tweed's work permit ran in on the 18th of July, which was the day before his work permit expired, which was the 19th of July. So for the minister to make the statement that no new work permit had been applied for is incorrect. So the minister needs to get her facts straight. My facts are in order, are more in order than hers as the minister of the country. And just on a side note, the minister needs to understand that the president's office of the B.I.U. needs to be respected. When I refer to the minister, I refer to her as minister. I've never ever called her anything else but minister, benches, if that's her title. To refer to me as Mr. Furbert, my title is president of the B.I.U. or president of the Bermuda Trading Congress if she wants to address me correctly. Secondly, this issue where the minister says that as minister responsible for immigration, this government indeed looks out for Bermudians. Really. Those of you who heard my speech at the Labor Day banquet and I did again on Monday, if this government is truly looking out for Bermudians, then how do you explain under the current OBA government, since they were elected in 2012, we have some 1,566 Bermudians who have lost their jobs under the OBA government, whilst there are only 568 non-Bermudians who have lost their jobs under the OBA government. Some 73% of Bermudians have lost their job under the OBA government, only 20% non-Bermudians have lost their job under the OBA government. Yet the minister is saying they're looking out for Bermudians. Well, if you are truly looking out for us, that situation needs to be completely turned around in another direction. This whole question about my comments being taken out of proportion, out of context by the minister. Monday was Labor Day. The time for Labor to speak is normally all throughout the year, but especially on Labor Day. If I've got a labor issue that needs to be addressed, and for the minister to imply that, well, the B.I.U. is now taking up the cause of this individual, whilst we're not taking up the cause of other non-Bermudians, if you want to phrase it like that. Well, I would like to think that, respectfully, Reverend Tweed is not any ordinary person. He has a history with this country. His father was run out of here some 50-odd years ago. He has family here, has got ties here. So for the minister and for any other person who's trying to talk about Reverend Tweed like it's just any other ordinary person, he's not any ordinary person. And the reason why this matter is also near and dear to us, you would be aware that earlier this year, the AME Church had its conference, its annual conference. Reverend Tweed was given an appointment by his bishop for another 3-year term. If the bishop would decide to move him to New York or move him to somewhere else, he would have been moved. He left him here. So if the government had an issue with that, the government had at that point in time could have reached out to the bishop to find out why you're leaving him here. We don't want him in our country anymore. You could have told the bishop that. I'm not saying he'll listen to you, but he makes the appointments. So for the minister of Home Affairs to come out and say that the B.I.U. president, is totally making those comments totally out of context on Labor Day was the time to make it. Was definitely the time to make it. So with that, I will entertain any questions you might have, because certainly the minister, did say something that, she made a comment about me. Let me just repeat what she said. I think that she mentions that about my I may have a custom to bullying tactics. Well, I think that all I said to the government is that this is an issue not for the government not to use any kind of game and play. People have known that this has been out there for weeks, People have been asking Reverend Tweed on the streets. They've been asking me about his work permit, so people know. They know his work permit expired. So all I'm saying to the government is this is not something you want to play with. Just get rid of it. Either we deny the work permit or approve the work permit. Don't play with it. And it appears that the minister is saying, well, if you looked at her interview, she says, well, yeah, she had to file. If you couldn't read between lines, she had to file. She looked at the file. 1 minute she's saying, well, I never saw the file. And then she said, if I did, Yeah, if you did, yeah, you had to file. She looked at it. Any questions?
The minister clearly stated in the interview that I did with her that she did have the file.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
The minister suggested that there were certain requirements that were not met in the application, and that is the reason that there was no decision yet. You have any idea what that may be?
You have a person who has a work permit, and once you're applying for a renewal, unless something has changed dramatically, if I got a work permit approved 3 years ago, and I'm applying for a work permit renewal, it's going to be the same as the one that I gave you. There's no changes. Shouldn't be no changes to it. So the issue for I guess, for maybe the church and the issue for Reverend Tweed is that, what's the issue? Just the same work permit I got approved 3 years ago, I'm asking for a renewal. Nothing's changed. Absolutely nothing has changed.
You were suggesting that there is political interference in this whole situation?
Absolutely. You know, Bermuda's a small place. You think that we hadn't been hearing about, you know, of course, Reverend Tweed being involved in the People's Campaign, the way how he's been vocal, that the government had decided that when his work permit came up for renewal, there was kind of a challenge with it. You realize the current minister, has a conflict of interest? She used to go to Reverend Tweed's church. So how you not be the sitting minister and now talking about you're going to look at his application form, renewal for work permit? That's a conflict. She should have just passed it to somebody else, let them deal with it. She stopped going to, that was her decision. She stopped going to the church over 2 years ago, you know. Nobody told her not to come anymore. She stopped going.
He's also said publicly,
Right.
Parliament are thinking of other issues that he's somewhat offended. I'm not sure about the words, but words to that effect by his preaching, you know, politically.
Yeah.
When he's in the country. I was uncomfortable.
It's kind of interesting how you could be the daughter of a trade unionist, Dr. Gordon, and, you know, former, you know, founder of this great organization. Huh? It's kind of interesting. And she professed to talk about her dad this and her dad that. What would that her dad stand for? When he left her and got on a plane to take the petition to London, what she thought that was all about? Huh? That was against the establishment, you know. That's what it was for. Really.
Did he have a work permit?
Dr. Gordon? I'm not sure he had a work permit. Any other questions? Sure.
Yes, did the minister at any point actually turn down Reverend Tweed's permit?
Well, I don't know whether the permit was actually turned on. All I know is that the church made an application to renew Reverend Tweed's work permit based on the appointment from, you know, the presiding, not based on the bishop, right? And once he got that appointment, naturally enough, the church will wait until the permit's due to expire, then apply for a new one. And my understanding is that, you know, I guess, you know, we kind of thought that, it's interesting how things happen, you know. We thought that Minister Fay was going to be dealing with Reverend Tweed's work permit. Because remember now, Minister Fay was initially the minister of Home Affairs. Minister Fay got moved, and Minister Patricia Gordon Pamela became the new minister. Because all before, it was Minister Fay who was the one who was going to block his work permit. That's what we were hearing. But it was quite apparent. The ABA government was going to block his work permit. That's who was going to block it. Not just Minister Fay, the ABA government. Let's just be clear.
So for clarification.
Sure.
Reverend Tweed has not gotten a definitive answer, because if I'm understanding correctly, it's at the appeals stage. If I'm understanding correctly, did it actually go to the appeals?
Well, you know, I think that it's very interesting because whilst I do understand the internal remnants of in government as to how, you know, departments work or whatever have you, right? At some point in time, somebody needs to come out and speak exactly what the internal process has been in relationship to this work permit. I don't profess to know all the ins and outs. All I can tell you that there are some things that I am privy to as relates to this process that, you know, says that some things could have been handled a lot better in relationship to this whole application. That's all I can tell you. I can't say anything more to you than that.
Well, further,
Sure.
with all due respect, you've come out publicly.
Yes.
in some statements.
Sure.
Why don't you tell us what you've been through? Give us the details so that they'll come to this.
Well, I think that basically when you look at, you look at the entire situation where, you know, the ME Church makes their annual appointments or, you know, for the term, whether it's a year or 3 years or whatever it is. And once that appointment has been made, you know, the government, if the government's got a challenge, then they should reach out to the bishop and tell the department and say to him, the department got with leaving this person here. No, up until that point in time, nobody had any inclination as to whether or not it was going to be renewed, not renewed, or whatever. Or like I said a few minutes ago, all we heard was the internal rumblings that the OBA are going to put a block on Mr. Tweed's work permit. Well, I went away, as you know, I was on vacation the last week of June and the first couple of weeks of July. When I got back home, Reverend Tweed told me his work permit is due to expire on the 19th of July. And they have not renewed it yet. So, I'm saying like, okay, well, when are they going to renew it? It's been 7 weeks now. You can only come to the conclusion that what kind of game are they playing?
How long is it?
It's a renewal, We're not talking about a new application. We're talking about a renewal. A renewal should take a week to 2 weeks. Shouldn't take any longer than that. Shouldn't take no longer than 2 weeks. And let's just say it takes a month. Let's just give them the option. It takes a month. Well, he should long have it by now. Should long have it by now.
You're not saying that in the normal course of immigration affairs,
Yeah.
the renewal would be automatic, right?
I'm not saying it should be automatic, but I'm saying that if, remember, we're talking about different classes of workers. We know this from people at the very top. It might take you no time to get your apartment at the top renewed. It might take somebody in the middle a week or 2 weeks. It might take somebody at the bottom a whole month. So let's be clear. There are certain classifications of work permits that do get priority and get fast track and approved. So let's just be clear about that there. So the mere fact that Reverend Tweed is in the category of a reverend or whatever have you, I would like to think that in a week or 2 weeks, it shouldn't take much more than that to approve that work permit. It should not take 7 weeks to renew a renewed work permit. 7 weeks? And talk about, well, what asked for that? What information are you asked for? You already got it in the file, the initial application. You have it right in there. It's right there in black and white. As far as I know, he ain't committed any crime since then.
What do you say to people that some critics out there who say that you should not be involved in political activity?
Well, you know what, Mr. Johnson, what I would say to that is that if you look at the AME churches from the beginning of time, they've been involved in political stuff. How could anybody say that? You go back to Reverend Monk. How many years ago was that? Huh? People are just being cynical right now. And there's individuals who's talking about Reverend Tweed should get on a plane and get out of here or whatever. First of all, understand one thing. This man has Bermudian connection. His father was run out over 50 years ago. We're not just talking some Joe Blow just dropped in out of the sky, And I understand how offensive those people can be. From my point of view, they got kissed with the sun don't shine. That had to be said. Because they're nasty. They're nasty. You never heard me make that kind of statement in all the 10 years I've been president of the BIU. But these people have got to know they're going too far, okay? They're going too far.
What's the next step then?
Well, I think the next step is that and what's happening right now? Look at what's going on right now. Now, people are going to, naysayers are going to say, well, you're going to give him his work permit now because the BIU raised whatever. This is the problem to put themselves in. We didn't put them in there, they put themselves in it. Because at some point in time, this was going to come up. Because here's what would happen. If next week the government decides to deny the work permit and nobody knew anything about it, first thing everybody's saying, well, how come you guys didn't say nothing? The ideal opportunity for us to say something was Labor Day. We gave enough time. From the time I've been back in this country for 4 weeks or whatever, Reverend Tweed and I have been talking about this thing and how it's all unfolded. And it was going to be a matter of time before it's going to be announced. Labor Day was the ideal opportunity because the government's had enough time to go ahead and put this thing to bed. I'll give you one. You want a bit of information? My understanding is that the minister took the file the week of cup match. Cup match was over here, huh? Three or 4 weeks ago, right? That's when the minister had the file, 3 or 4 weeks ago. What is taking so long? She does. Well, I'm not going to begin to tell the government who to appoint to handle this affair, but I think that, I'm unsure, the Premier could have said to Minister Fay, will you continue on with this process? He could have appointed somebody else because she has a conflict of interest. She wouldn't admit that, but she does. Sure. To the best of my knowledge, inside information tells me that it has. It has. At the cabinet level. I'll call a spade, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to disregard anybody who's giving us information, but the country's got to know what's happening there. People have got to know what's taking place. And the only way to do that, you have to put the cards on the table and let the chips fall where they may.
You say that Labor Day was the time to announce it to all the other things you choose that not to name the individual, why name Reverend Tweed?
Because it's quite obvious that it looks like, everybody knows who it is now, because it was mentioned that it was Reverend Tweed. So that's why I'm now coming out and saying that it is Reverend Tweed. But I wanted the minister to say to, whether it's the media or, say to the country, that yes, it's Reverend Tweed's recommend that Mr. Furbert is speaking about. She could have said that. She could have said it. But maybe because she's got the conflict of interest I spoke about, that's why she didn't say anything. Any further questions?
Well, it's fair to speak,
Sure.
not really supposed to talk about,
Yeah, but let's just be clear. I mean, you've had ministers in the past or people in the past, if their work permit were renewed for whatever reason, they had to leave the country. Their stories have surfaced and came up. And a prominent figure like, Reverend Tweed, who is very outspoken, been involved with, certain issues that people feel he shouldn't be involved in or whatever have you. I mean, it was only a matter of time before his name surfaced. How do you keep something like that bottled up and not have the public have access to it? Well, let me say we've been waiting and seeing for a while now, right? And it looks like, they talk about the views in government, how slow they turn and all those sort of things, right? But recognizing that, we're not trying to get into the church first. The church has submitted, the application form to renew his work permit. They're waiting patiently for the government to give a response. And, and just looking at this whole thing and the amount of time that it's taken, recognizing that, Nicholas Tweed, when we look at his father, who, was exiled out of her, and this man, as I said a few minutes ago, and Sister Molly's right. I mean, we're talking about a Sunday son. We're talking about somebody who just dropped out of the sky. I mean, I like to think that his father was a general secretary of the BIU. His son is now her, and if he needs our help, I think it's up to the people of the community to decide whether or not he's deserving of the help. It's up to them to make that decision, if it ultimately comes down to that. Yes. That's for him to tell you what he's done about that. I think he can address that, and I think you'll be satisfied with the answer that you get. Sure. Reverend Tweed doesn't have a work permit. You realize his working without a work permit is breaking the law. No, anyway.